Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we're meeting for the first time, allow me to introduce myself. I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. I have a wonderful job. It doesn't even feel like a job. It feels like my life. And in my life, I offer classes. I love to teach and facilitate groups. And I have a new class that comes about every 6 weeks or so. I often don't know what it is until a few weeks before, when it drops into my consciousness, my inspired heart, and then I share with you what the new class will be. So if you want to follow along and come into the mystery of what will Laurel be teaching next, I invite you to sign up for my mailing list at my website, illuminatingsouls.com. Also, you can work with me one-on-one by scheduling a 60-minute angel session, which takes place over the phone. And they are wonderful. And they just are so supportive of coming into a loving place in consciousness. So you can quiet the noise and hear the truth of your heart. And then I offer a longer form of support, soul mentoring, where we take a journey together. We start with a 12-week program where we meet every week. And every single person I work with has a different experience. So if you are looking for a longer form of support, feel free to reach out to me about soul mentoring. And one last thing, I do post semi-regularly on Facebook, so you can follow me there as well. But for now, the angels and I are here to co-create a beautiful, sacred space where you can relax and replenish, and we can keep you company as you go about your day, because some of you do listen during your waking hours. And especially for those of you that are preparing to go to sleep, we can keep you company as you drift off into that beautiful mystery of sleep. So those of you who are regular listeners will know that this podcast is a mashup of two of my ever faithful forms of self-care, connecting with the angels and listening to a sleep podcast. Just last night, I was listening to, you know what, I should have looked this up. I forget the name of the podcast, but it's something about, quiet stories from the library. That's not what it's called. Wait, hold on. I'll be right back. I'll tell you what it is. And I say that as if it's a lot of work for me to just pick up my phone and open the podcast app. So the podcast is called Lights Out Library. Isn't that a great name for a podcast? It is hosted by Olympia Perez. And this particular episode I just thought sounded so cool. Wait, let me see if I can find the little synopsis about it. It is called Crystal Skulls and Other Out-of-the-Place Artifacts. Well, she had me at crystal skulls, right? I mean, that sounds pretty cool. And there were a whole bunch of interesting artifacts that she talks about in a very quiet, sleepy tone. So sleepy that I don't even remember anything about it other than the introduction. So I have nothing to report back to you about my enhanced knowledge of crystal skulls from listening to that podcast, because it did its job. So, another recommendation for you. So I love falling asleep to a sleep podcast. that there's something that is so lovely about inviting my consciousness into this place where it can listen and drift. And so that is why I have created this podcast, so you can have some time in the angelic energy and we can share some stories together. And hopefully you drift off into a lovely expanse of restful, restorative sleep. I don't know about you, but my sleep cycle continues to change. I have shared with you before that I go to bed very early. It's become earlier some days, and where it can be as early as 7 p.m. Mostly it's 8 p.m. Last night was a wild night here at the Bleadon-Maffei house where I was up until 9. Like that's what my midnight used to be. 9 p.m. is the new midnight for me. And then I have been waking up at 2 a.m. It used to be 3 a.m. Now, for some reason, it's 2 a.m., although I did sleep until 2:30 this morning, so that was good. And the lucky thing is I work from home, so it's not as if I have to do finely detailed work for 10 hours every day. I get to go into these dreamy spaces and talk about the angels, which, being a little tired and loopy, is actually really good for the work that I do. And as I've shared with you before, I have a love for the early mornings. And I have inherited my father's circadian rhythm. My dad used to also go to sleep very early and wake up in the wee hours of the morning. And I've really come to love it. So I usually am awake before my husband. So I try to be very quiet, and I lay on my side of the bed and I flip through my phone, which is probably not great for my brain's resting phase, but I do it anyways. And then I get up, and sometimes I leave all the lights off and I curl up in the chair and I put on an audiobook or something. I think as someone who is profoundly empathic and feels energy so deeply, I love being present when the world is quiet. It's why I record these episodes in the early morning. And as you may have noticed, for those of you who listen, I have been not as consistent in publishing new episodes. And I think part of that is because as the world does its world stuff, I have found I have taken the early mornings for my own well-being. And so in the early mornings, I love to sit and crochet, and I might have a mental conversation, an imagined conversation maybe. It's not really imagining, but I might spend some time with the angels. I might listen to an audiobook, or I might watch a TV show. I find TV helps give me an energetic break from the world as well. So I love this podcast and I love making it for you, but I have found that my early mornings have been allocated to a different form of self-care. And I'm not as good as making time in the afternoons to record these episodes, because by then I'm unplugging from the world, and I don't know. It's an interesting experience to make space for this kind of creative endeavor. So don't give up on the podcast. I'm still going to be here with you. It just may be a little bit irregular for a little while things sort themselves out. But things are good here at the Illuminating Souls headquarters. And, I guess I'll share with you this space that I am in and what I started calling it this week. It feels like I'm in the in-between. I'm using that as a noun. The in-between. And other times I might call it incubation or hibernation, but neither of those words feel appropriate right now vibrationally. I've been describing it as that in-between place just before the seasons change. or just when a tree is about to bud or bring about its next wave of leaves. It feels like a time of deep rest, not because of fatigue, just stillness almost, as the next wave of creation prepares to flow to me, through me, as me, with me. And so maybe you're in the in-between too. It's a lovely place here. I'm very contented. I don't want to do anything. Not because I'm withdrawing from the world. It's just this place of sweet stillness, the in-between. It almost feels like I'm in this pocket of light. It feels protective. It feels restorative. It feels like those sweet, quiet spaces before I completely understand what's next. And it's not even a place where I don't yet know my answers, because I'm not even sure I know my questions. And as somebody who does this work, I definitely use divine guidance. I use inspiration, intuition, and I'm not sure what to offer next. I'm not sure what the message is. Again, not from this place of I don't know, but more from this place of, I don't know yet. Curiosity, listening, and that's where I've been, the in-between. So I share that term with you in case it resonates for you as well. You know, we've been processing a lot of life, a lot of stimulus, a lot of changing patterns. And it can take time to reacclimate to this moment in time. So if you're in the in-between, welcome. I'll pass the snacks. I will hand you a ball of yarn and a crochet hook, and in this astral world, you will know how to crochet, and we can create beautiful things together. And I'm sure that this will not last terribly long. I'm sure it will be just a phase like the phase of the moon, and soon it will shift. So here we are in the in-between. And especially if you're drifting off to sleep, just know the angels are with you, and love is with you. More importantly, the love is with you always. So I'm going to invite you to take a nice deep breath in as we acknowledge this space we are in with the angels. So just allow yourself to breathe and let your body relax as best you can. And I'm going to ask the angels to join us, even though they're already here. So beautiful angels on high, I invite you to join us here. And I ask that you continue infusing this broadcast with love. Love that nurtures. Love that restores. Love that replenishes and helps us remember who we are as divine beings in human form. Angels, I ask that you help us find our way into brighter tomorrows, assisting us in connecting with our creative spirits, our vitality, our goodness, our light, our love. And angels, I ask that you send blessings to each one of our beloveds who is listening to this message. And so, dear ones, if you have any prayers or intentions you wish to share with God and the angels, I invite you to bring them into your heart now. Just bring them gently into your heart. The angels already know what is in your heart, but I find it helps if sometimes I can give that a voice, even if it is just inside my own consciousness. And just breathe into this beautiful space. And so it always helps me to visualize, so I share this with you, that the room, the space you are in, is filling with a soft pink light that is filled with love that has been calibrated just for you. There's nothing you need to do in this moment other than to be and receive. And then the angels will let this light travel throughout your home to all of those that you love, rippling beyond the sphere of your awareness, sending this light where it is needed. But again, we start with you. So this is your invitation to receive. You are a beautiful soul, and you are worthy of this love. So just take a breath as the angels bring to you the sweetness, the lightness of spirit, the connection with all that is good, the connection with divine light that is here for you. Just take a deep breath in and allow it to be so. The energy is just so sweet here right now, and I am so grateful for the opportunity to share it with you. In this moment, the angels say prayers in your name. It is always so exquisite to know that someone is praying for you. Well, let me say it differently. That someone is praying for me. Now, I have to just tell you why I changed the grammar there. Because maybe it doesn't feel precious to you. I don't mean to assign that to you. Rather, I want to reflect to you that it always touches my heart when someone prays for me. It feels like such a gift, such an act of generosity. So I invite you to feel the blessing of the prayers the angels and I are saying for you. That they don't come with any kind of obligation, any attachment. Just know that your presence is known and loved, that we have such gratitude for the gift of you, even if we have never met. We are part of the same soul community, and you are one who brings love into this world, and so I am deeply grateful for the gift of you. So just go ahead and breathe and let in the goodness, let in the light. And if you are preparing for sleep, to cozy on up and snuggle on in. And while you rest, your angels will stay with you. And we are going to move on into story time. Okay, for story time, we have not done one of these episodes in a while. This is a TV guide episode. So we are going to be looking at a TV guide from June of 1978. And it has Valerie Harper of Rhoda fame on the cover with a headline that says, "What video cassettes can mean to you." Ooh, we have a lot to talk about that. It meant absolute freedom. So, yay for the invention of VCRs and video cassettes. So I always like to tell you where I would be in my life in this moment. So I would be 16 years old. I would have just turned 16 the month before. I am a May birthday baby. And I would have gotten my driver's license, which meant amazing freedom. And I may have recently moved into my own little teeny tiny bedroom that my father had outfitted for me, so I no longer had to share a room with my sister. So we lived in this old 1930s house that had a screened-in back porch. And my father, for my 16th birthday, divided the back porch in like 2/3 and a third. And then he put up walls and paneling to make a bedroom for me, which was awesome. I had my own room for the first time. It was very 70s. It had wood paneling. It had this kind of brown, gold, almost shaggy carpeting, right? It was the 70s. That's what we loved. It had its own air conditioner, which was total gold because I could control my own climate. So that's what's going on for me in my life at that point. So let's see what we can discover in this TV guide. It's going to be so cool. I'm sure of it. I can feel it. Well, part of what I love about these TV guides are the ads. So we start off with a full page ad. Do you remember those ads that encouraged you to draw this black and white drawing to see if you were good enough to go to art school? So this says over $5,000 in prizes awarded monthly. Draw Tippy. You may win one of 5 $995 art scholarships or any one of 75 $10,000 cash prizes. Draw Tippy. Tippy is a very dapper, looks to be turtle with a hat, like a newsboy hat. So they're looking to get applicants for this art school. So if they're giving away $995 scholarships in 1978, I can only imagine how much this school cost. And they would be able to tell if you were qualified. And do you really think they sent anyone away? Do you really think if you drew something that looked nothing like Skippy, that they would say, yeah, I'm so sorry, we can't take you? Anybody who entered, you're so talented, you're such a gift. I'm sure that was the scam. And they ran so many ads. You know, at some point, maybe I'll go into Wikipedia and see if I can find out more about this. But not this episode. We are going to stay focused on the plan at hand, which is this TV guide. There is an ad for the 1978 Plymouth Horizon, which looks similar to, I don't even know what those cars were. I forgot. A friend of mine had one, but they're very boxy, and they have the slanted back rearview mirror. It gets 41 miles per gallon in the highway and 27 miles per gallon in the city, and it costs $3,881. So it gives you an AM radio. Amazing. It reminds me of my Chevy Chevette, which really was a Pontiac T1000 because they were corporate twins. That cost $4,000. And then we come to the article about the video cassette market, which was very, very new at the time. Let me just read to you the beginning of this article. So they're talking about how 20th Century Fox, for the first time ever, opened its vaults to sell video cassettes of some of their best movies, including MASH, Hello, Dolly, The French Connection, and the movies at the time were selling for $49.95 to $69.95. Again, huge amounts of money back in the day. And they took out a full-page ad in some of the national newspapers. This was the sentence that I loved. It was the first time a major motion picture company had opened its vaults to the owners of those newfangled videotape machines. And it signaled the start of a new chapter in the burgeoning do-it-yourself home video market that is giving TV fans more control than ever before over what shows they watch and when they watch them. So they're saying that in 1978, only about 3,000 videotape recorders were in the hands of consumers. So it's so interesting when a new technology comes online that is a disruptor. This was a massive disruptor. For the first time ever, we could watch things that we wanted to watch when we wanted to watch them. And it was a brand new experience. We wouldn't get our VCR until somewhere around 1982. So this would be a few years before we had one, but a friend's father had one, and we went to his house and watched a movie together. I'm not even going to tell you the name of the movie because it's a little disturbing to me. It's not a horror movie or anything. It's just not my cup of tea. But that was the first time I ever saw a movie on videotape. There's also an article here about how companies would market their products using TV placement. And the headline says, "When waterbeds won a salute on national TV." So there's a little segment here in this article that says, America's awareness of waterbeds presumably was heightened by a Rhoda episode, in which the purchase of a waterbed became the focus of the plot. When did waterbeds stop really being a thing? I remember when there were waterbed shops everywhere. My brother had a waterbed, and then he had a flotation mattress in my parents' house on the second floor, which is a terrible idea, but we never had any sort of disasters as a result. But I've maybe slept a night or two on a waterbed, but I never liked it. But do they even exist anymore? I think we've all gone the Tempur-Pedic route, right? We have a Tempur-Pedic mattress that I love, so little plug for Tempur-Pedic. So, did you ever have a waterbed or sleep on one? What was your experience? All right, and then there is another ad for a car. Oh, let's see, what is the car? It doesn't say. The new Chevrolet is a thoroughly contemporary automobile. So is it just the new Chevrolet? The Caprice class. Okay, I'm not sure what this is, but let's see. It can hold 6 passengers. And EPA are 24 miles per gallon on the highway, 17 in the city, which would be terrible now. All right, well, I'm going to move on because I'm not quite sure what they're advertising here. And then we do have the obligatory Columbia House insert for the Columbia House Record Club, and they're showing 8 tracks. And we've got the Osmonds Greatest Hits. That would have had my name all over it, although I don't know about that in 1978. I'm 16. Oh, Helen Reddy's Greatest Hits. I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. Yeah. Supertramp. I think we were listening to Supertramp then. James Taylor, JT. I did not love James Taylor yet, but I was a few short years away from falling absolutely in love with everything he does. Cat Stevens' Greatest Hits. Again, I would not have had an appreciation for that then, but I would come to love it later, including Loggins and Messina. Styx. Yeah, I would have probably been into Styx and stuff like that back then. Bay City Rollers. Okay, so not at 16, but certainly when I was 12. Would have loved that. Oh, I had to flip the page. Barry Manilow. Do any of you who were alive and aware in 1978 remember how huge Barry Manilow was then? He sold out everything he did. He was on the radio constantly. He was just the biggest thing in the world then. Linda Ronstadt, Kiss. I never liked Kiss, but other people did. Blondie. My high school friends loved Blondie. I wasn't a big fan, but they loved her. She spoke to them. Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell. I mean, one of the best albums ever recorded, right? Steve Miller Band, Fly Like an Eagle. Is that going through your head now? Thank you very much. Me too. So let's move into the TV-related stuff. So we're going to go right to Saturday morning, which again, at 16, I promise you I was sleeping through. So there are some cartoons. There's a lot of syndication. So things like The Partridge Family. I'm surprised to see The Hardy Boys. So in 1978, it was already in syndication. So it's because it's Parker Stevenson and Sean Cassidy. And Pamela Sue Martin, because it was also a Nancy Drew episode, because the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew search for the boy's father, who has disappeared in Transylvania. Oh, this would have been a classic. While investigating a series of art thefts, the first of 2 parts. A 2-parter Hardy Boys Nancy Drew crossover would have been amazing in the day. I had such a crush on Sean Cassidy. Not at 16, when I was younger. Okay, let's see what else I can find. Okay, so let's get ready for Saturday night. Again, I would probably be out with my girlfriends. Well, I shouldn't just say girlfriends. We had guy friends too, with my friends. So there is something I can guarantee you we were not watching, which was a special about Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts never saw a single second of airtime in our home. There is Bionic Woman, which we would not be watching because I have to tell you what else is on. But first, let me tell you what Bionic Woman is about. A pair of foreign agents and 2 rough saddle bums have different motives but equal determination to stop an OSI computer expert from pursuing his hobby of rodeo competition. Like, how does that even play into anything this show would be about? So foreign agents are trying to deter an OSI computer expert from pursuing his hobby of rodeo competition. Riveting stuff. Okay. Bob Newhart. A battle for Ellen's affections erupts between her self-possessed ex-fiancé, played by Fred Willard, and jealous, bumbling Howard Bill Daly. That was a good Newhart show. I loved Bob Newhart. Okay, and here's what I think we were watching. Love Boat. Well, first of all, I wouldn't be watching because it's summer and I'm 16 and I'm out with my friends. But I love reading these. A Thieving Chimp. Okay, so this is a Love Boat episode with a chimpanzee. Classic already, right? This is the hijinks. I have to use the word hijinks at least once in this episode. Okay, I won't use it again though. I promise. Well, in this episode, I will use it again in the future. I reserve my right to use it again in the future. A thieving chimp almost wrecks Gopher's love life. Isaac is scandalized by his mother, played by Pearl Bailey, which would have been amazing. A widow taking a cruise with her live-in boyfriend. Third story, a pair of feuding lounge performers, played by Nanette Febvre and Don Adams. Fantastic stuff. Are reunited for a show. Okay, listen, that would be fantastic, right? Something called Baby I'm Back. I don't remember at all, probably because I would have been out or watching The Love Boat. A movie called Sex and the Married Woman. Ooh, that I can't even imagine what that would have been. Scandalous, right? in the 1978. And then another movie called For Better or Worse with Gene Hackman and Liv Ullmann. Okay, and then we're going to skip ahead. And listen, I did not purposely leave out Fantasy Island. It was not airing on this particular Saturday night. But Saturday Night Live, which at that point was just called Saturday Night, host Hugh Hefner is joined by Abby Kaufman, funny guy, and Libby Titus, who I don't know who that is, who sings Fool That I Am. Hefner is the commander of an all-male space crew that battles a ship guided by women. Yeah, okay, that wouldn't have aged well. And this is a repeat, so that's why they know what is on. Okay, and then of course we have the ad for a diet aid called Hungrex. And it is truly safe and effective. It is a reducing age. Here's the proof. When a reducing aid is so effective that an article is written by a professor. By a professor of what? And it appears in a medical journal. Okay, what medical journal? You know it must work. Here is what was said about it's a long chemical name in Hungrex. We conclude that this drug is an effective appetite suppressant. We also conclude that this drug can cause a perceived decrease in food intake and reduce body weight. Oh my God, this is what messed up my life so much. So we should be taking these drugs because a professor wrote about it in not this particular medication, but about a related medication. Okay. Yeah, we're not going to go there. Okay, we're now on to Sunday morning. Again, I'll be sleeping. There's lots of church shows because this is Indiana and it looks like it might be Kentucky. So there's lots of church related things. And lots of syndicated programming, but nothing is catching my eye, so I'm going to move on. Apparently, though, it is the day for the U.S. Open, so golf will be on. And do any of you remember what it was like before we had VCRs? You know, when you just had to watch broadcast television, and it's a Sunday afternoon, and you're flipping through channels, and there's golf and bowling, and like nothing is on. You know, now it's like there's nothing to watch, but we have 15,000 channels and programs to choose from. But back then, there really was nothing to watch. But before we do that, I have to give a shout out to my friend David. David, this is your little segment. The movie Adam Age Vampire is on. My friend David loves horror movies. It's an Italian movie from 1960. A professor, Alberto Lupo, turns killer in an effort to restore the face of a scarred dancer, Suzanne Lorette. Standard horror movie. Well, there you go. Okay. Oh, there is bowling playing, though. I don't know. You might not have watched the horror movie because pro bowling. There's bowling. Okay. Let's see what is playing opposite, though, the U.S. Open. Okay, so we will have to look at the hour before it because, you know, things run into each other. So there's the movie The Gun for San Sebastian with Anthony Quinn. We have the vampire movie. And then we have Finian's Rainbow with Fred Astaire, which I don't think I would have wanted to watch. Pro bowling, again, amazing. We have a documentary I wouldn't have wanted to watch. Something about Mrs. Leslie. That's actually, the title is About Mrs. Leslie. That's with Shirley Booth. We have U.S. Open, so golf. And then Great Performances is Table Manners. It looks like it's a play of some kind. And something called In Search of Real America. And then at 3:10, we have the movie Backlash coming on. And at 3:30, we have Son of Football Follies, so football. And then at 4 o'clock, we have Sports World, so auto racing. And we also have another auto racing. I mean, do you get my pain point here? 3 o'clock on a Sunday, maybe I'm, I don't really want to do my homework, so I want to watch some TV, and these are my choices. Really, nothing was on. So I would have probably gone to the mall with my friends. My mother might be listening to the opera on the radio. notice I'm not even saying I'm going to read a book. I don't know at 16 that I was reading anything. I used to love reading books, but I went through a time where I stopped reading. Unless it was something like Judith Krantz and Scruples. I made the shift into trashy reading, but I don't think that had happened yet. So that's the desert of options, unless you're into horror movies. And then there was a Italian vampire movie to watch. If it was dubbed, that would make it even better. Yeah, because it would do subtitles. A dubbed Italian vampire movie may have been the way to go, but I wouldn't have been watching it. David, though, you would have probably loved it. We're getting into the evening now, so we've got The World of Disney, something I don't recognize, called The Scarecrow of Romney Marsh. There is Nancy Drew. I never really wanted to watch Nancy Drew. If I was going to watch any of them, of course it would be Hardy Boys, because boys. Jacques Cousteau. I loved a good Jacques Cousteau documentary, always. And, this is a program. Then there's Grease Day USA, a program showcasing the movie Grease. Features a post-premiere prom held on the movie's high school set. Scheduled guests include John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John, Sid Caesar, Eve Arden, Stockard Channing, and Sha-Na Na. We loved Grease. My friends and I loved Grease. I can't tell you how many times we saw it. And the whole Olivia Newton-John in those leather pants gave me body issues for years. She was perfect, right? Okay, Saturday night movie, we have Earthquake. Charlton Heston, of course. He was in all of those movies, and George Kennedy. I don't quite remember. I kind of remember that movie in my periphery, but I don't remember it as much as like The Towering Inferno. But listen to this all-star cast. Charlton Heston, of course. Ava Gardner, George Kennedy, Lorne Greene, Richard Roundtree, Walter Matthau, Victoria Principal. Brilliant. Oh, another diet ad. Lose weight fast with extra strength Bio Slim. Sure, I'm sure that worked really, really well. Okay, Rhoda. Okay, let's see what's on Rhoda. The Morgensterns and their daughters share another bi-weekly dinner that is as boring as usual until Martin, played by Harold Gould, it would be Rhoda and Brenda's father. So when their father digs out their old home movies. I bet that was a really funny episode because Nancy Walker played their mother. That would be a good episode to go back and find. Then Lucan was on. He was the wolf boy. Remember? Cute boy. Kevin Brophy. I thought he was cute. Lucan returns to the woods to search for the gray wolf that raised him. Of course he did. And to locate a vaguely remembered metal object that might be a clue to his identity. Hold on. Let me read this to you. Previn and the Pittsburgh. Violinist Isaac Stern joins Andre Previn to discuss and perform chamber music with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. Okay, this is why I had to give a little breath between these, because my parents would have loved to have watched this. Like, this has my parents written all over it. Isaac Stern and Andre Previn, I mean, they are superstars of classical music. And I probably made them watch Rhoda, God forbid Lucan, or Earthquake. Like, there's no way. It would have been like, yes, of course you can watch the symphony with Isaac Stern. But that's what they would have wanted to watch. And I had the kinds of parents that would have acquiesced to us. God bless their heart. This is why I know that I just would not ever have been the kind of mother my mother was, because I would have been like, it's my TV. I'm watching the symphony. You go do something else. So, okay, enough about me. Okay, what else can I give you? All in the Family. Mike and female impersonator Beverly LaSalle, played by Laurie Shannon. So the female impersonators, played by a woman, it tells you what was happening in the times, are attacked by a street gang. Well, that sounds really dark for, well, there could be dark episodes of All in the Family, but I don't remember that one. A movie called White Line Fever with Jan Michael Vincent, if you know, you know, and Kay Lenz. You know what I remember about Kay Lenz? I think she was married to David Cassidy for a period of time. See, my mind remembers this. An early iteration of Poldark, Alice, the sitcom Alice, after learning that Flo, played by Polly Holiday, who was wonderful, once babysat country singer Jerry Reed, everyone pesters her for tickets to his concert. There is a Shirley MacLaine special on, something called Search of the Real America, and then Love American Style. Love American Style, truer than the red, white, and blue. Okay. Comic John Briner as a pickpocket whose heart is stolen by a young admirer. I almost said a young admiral, a young admirer. And a tale about a suspicious spouse who hires a detective to follow his wife. Okay, so that's Sunday evening. Okay, we now go to Monday morning. So it's June, end of June. I'm not in school, thank goodness. So I'm sleeping, I'm sure. But we do have the talk shows. I always like to see who's on these. So Phil Donahue is doing something about pressures on men in the modern society. Mike Douglas. This is so end of 1970s. From Hollywood, of course it is. Tony Randall is the co-host, and guests include Doc Severinsen, Charlie Callis, and singer Frida Payne. Hollywood. Let's see who's on Hollywood Squares. Eileen Brennan, Sid Caesar, Dom DeLuise, Louise Fletcher, Fernando Lamas, Paul Lind, Marsha Mason, Vic Tabak, Abe Vigoda, and Peter Marshall is the series host. How do you know you were watching a lot of TV in the late 70s? You know who every single one of these people is. I know every single one of them. So, not personally, of course, but, you know. Yeah, I know who all of them are. So, I'm that old. I know who everybody is on Hollywood Squares at the end of the 1970s, years old. We also have a lot of syndication. We have Happy Days, Green Acres, all of those great shows. And another episode of Mike Douglas. And this one, this is going to be genius. Co-host Jerry Lewis. Brilliant. Actor Joseph Bottoms, who I think might have been a little cute. My little cute meter's going off, I seem to recall. Singer Tanya Tucker. And okay, this is so 70s. Beauty experts Vidal and Beverly Sassoon. Remember when everything was Vidal Sassoon? To use his shampoo. He was on all the talk shows talking about what kind of haircuts we should get. Okay, and then Dinah Shore, has on Lucille Ball, Carl Reiner, Lucy Arnaz, and Hollywood columnist Robert Osborne. Also from Six Flags Over Texas, Anson Williams appears with some talent contest finalists. Again, I know who all these people are. Do you remember Anson Williams? He played Potsy, I think that was his character's name, on Happy Days. Lucille Ball, Carl Reiner, Lucy Arnaz. That would be great. And Robert Osborne. Remember him from Turner Classic Movies? I loved him. So, that would have been cool. Although I would not have appreciated it at 16 years old, I'm just saying. Oh, and there's another Mike Douglas. So it was in syndication, so different channels would air different episodes at different times. So his co-host is Ruth Warrick. Do you know who she is? How many of you are having name recognition with Ruth Warrick? She played Phoebe Wallingford on All My Children. And she is joined by Anson Williams, so this must be Anson Williams week, Leon Spinks, and actor Robert Guillaume. Oh, and they have a telephone conversation with Lillian Carter, who would be Jimmy Carter's mother. She was feisty. She always had something interesting to say. Then we have other things that are syndicated: Petticoat Junction, Emergency One, Dick Van Dyke, Sanford and Son, Adam 12, I Dream of Jeannie. Okay, let's see what Monday night prime time is going to bring us. We have Little House on the Prairie, which I did watch. Mary, Melissa Sue Anderson, takes her first teaching job in a small, isolated community dominated by a strong-willed spinster who regards teachers and education as works of the devil. Okay, don't recognize any names. Jefferson. After Mother Jefferson calls to announce she's dropping in. The episodes with Mother Jefferson were always really funny. When she's dropping in for the weekend, George, played by Sherman Hemsley, of course, decides he'd rather rough it in the woods on a campout with his new employee, played by Ernest Hardin Jr. You know it's going to be good when just the summary makes you laugh. Okay, and then we have, a really good MASH episode. This was a classic. It was a repeat. This is the one where Hawkeye and Hot Lips bury the hatchet. It's a 2-part story. So they go on a special mission to another MASH unit, and then they find themselves lost in enemy territory, and they're forced to take cover from approaching soldiers. And it's a classic episode. If you've watched MASH, you will know this episode. And then, of course, another weight loss ad. Watch pounds and inches disappear with Permethine 12. Like, oh my God, if these things worked, life would have been so different for me. I never tried them, though. Not these, at least. All right, we've got Good Times. So, Willona, played by Jeanette Dubois, renews her romance with an old beau, a wealthy contractor whose globe-trotting ways could disrupt Penny's newfound stability. And opposite that is Mary Tyler Moore. When Lou and Rhoda go out together, everyone assumes that they're falling in love. No, they did not. Let's see, there are... Well, we would have for sure been watching MASH. Of course we would have. And One Day at a Time. So Anne's 36th birthday. Only 36. Wow. Okay, that has me shook. She was so young. Of course she was, but to me she was always so old. It's all relative. Anne's 36th birthday is a cause for celebration for everyone but the birthday girl. For Anne, the event is cause for a midlife crisis. Oh, poor Anne. Okay, and Lou Grant, which I loved that show. Tribune staffers try to block demolition of a newspaper vendor's condemned apartment to save the murals he painted in honor of his late wife. Then, as we go into late evening, we have a syndicated version of Love American Style with Gary Berghoff. Of course, Radar O'Reilly from MASH plays an airline passenger fantasizing about a girl across the aisle. Then there's an Alfred Hitchcock episode, and Johnny Carson's guest host is Steve Martin, and the guests are Bernadette Peters and Glenn Campbell. I wonder if Steve Martin and Bernadette Peters were a couple at that point, because they were a couple for a while. All of this weird stuff I know because I read People magazine back in the day. And again, late night, Soap is airing. Soap is brilliant. A few years ago, Wes and I went back and binge-watched the whole series, and it is still funny. Remember when Bert would go invisible by snapping his fingers? So Mary talks Bert into seeing a sex therapist, and during confession, Corinne begs the priest to join her in a sin. Okay, it loses a lot when you just read the synopsis. It is a funny, funny show, though. Oh, here, okay, let's see what else. I was going to say Soap, but it's just the same episode again. Okay, so we're only to Monday night, and I'm going to save the rest of the TV programming for another episode, but I am going to flip back to that yellow page in the back where they give you a couple little snippets. So the first one is about Happy Days regular Scott Baio, who of course played Chachi. There was a clamor in the background while we waited to talk on the phone to Scott Baio because a bunch of girls were at the door asking for his autograph. If I knew where Chachi lived, I would have gone to his door and asked for an autograph with my girlfriends. I'm not saying that's a good thing. We just would have. And then, this is interesting. In the 1950s, Edward R. Murrow interviewed John F. Kennedy, Marilyn Monroe, and other celebrities on CBS's Person to Person, and some of the shows will be replayed this summer in a 13-part series on PBS. I am fairly certain that John F. Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe were not interviewed together. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the one that made my heart happy. The actor John Gabriel has traded his stethoscope for a microphone. Do you know who he is, any of you? He was on Ryan's Hope. That's why I know who he is. And he played Dr. Seneca Bolak. Ryan's Hope was the first soap I ever started watching, so I have a really soft spot for Ryan's Hope. He was apparently doing a Manhattan cabaret. It just made me happy to see his name here. And something else, this is interesting. Producer Danny Arnold has gone to Europe to make a pilot for an Israeli TV version of Barney Miller. The series will be spoken in Hebrew and set at a police station in Israel. I wonder if that ever got made. Wouldn't that be interesting to go back and watch now? But anyways, I loved revisiting Dr. Seneca Bolak. I don't remember his storyline, though. He had unrequited love. Wasn't he married to Delia? I don't recall. I just remember he sort of had an unrequited, very complicated love life, which, of course, is just a Tuesday on a soap opera. But I loved Ryan's Hope, so props to Ryan's Hope, which did not last as long as it should have, because at some point ABC canceled it for Loving, which was terrible. So, Ryan's Hope, awesome soap. Alas, it is no more. I don't know what comes after that. I almost wrote a poem in my head for Ryan's Hope. So, we're going to stop there, my friends, because hopefully you are in the dreamy spaces. If not, maybe you're just more relaxed than you were when we started. Maybe you're having some lovely wanders down memory lane of your own, of who were your childhood crushes. Were you a Partridge Family watcher or Brady Bunch? Did you watch Green Acres with Arnold the Pig? It was a good era for television. So, we'll come back to this issue at some point. But for now, the angels and I send you so much love, and we say thank you for allowing us to keep you company. I am so deeply grateful for you. So I wish you the sweetest of dreams. I wish you love. I wish you goodness. And I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thank you.